Welcome to today's episode. We have a very exciting guest, Jeffrey Hillen, CEO and founder of Warehouse Buyers Club. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely, Megan. I hope you're having a great day. Look forward to talking to you here.
It's going to be great. So anyone tuning in just for the first time, we are Stravix, a company that helps businesses scale revenue and operate more efficiently. And if you're looking to take your business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And also, if you're interested in your free growth consultation, just drop the word growth in the DMs or comments below. So once again, Jeffrey, super excited to have you on today. Why don't you just give us a little bit of personal and professional background?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I'm the CEO of Warehouse Buyers Club. We are an online marketplace for both new and used material handling products. So, our job as a broker is to find the buyer and the seller and make sure that the solution and the partnership make sense. So, I've been doing this in material handling for a long time, but I started my business a little under 2 years ago. And it's been great, having a lot of fun, and just look forward to growing the business.
That's amazing. Why don't you walk us through a little bit deeper of your story about founding this Warehouse Buyers Club?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I'll try to keep it interesting for anybody listening. But I was working for a material handling company, a dealer of equipment, and I really just didn't have a passion for what I was doing. I was bored, and frankly, I remember a Thursday at 2:30 the one day where somebody walked by my office and I literally tried to move my mouse, acting like I was doing something because I just didn't have anything really to do at that very moment. But I was working for somebody else. I've always been a hard worker, but I struggled with having to be in what I felt like a concrete prison from a certain time to the end of the day. And my goal was to never feel like that. So I had this crazy idea to reach out to a bunch of the used suppliers in my network, primarily in New Jersey, to try to move products that they had that just either weren't moving or they just didn't have a buyer for. So I primarily started through Facebook Marketplace. I literally started by going to their sites, taking pictures, getting ideas of what the inventory was, how much they wanted to get for it, and just posting a bunch of stuff on Facebook Marketplace. And within a couple of months, I told myself by doing this, if I could make more money doing this than I was working for somebody else, I would never go back. And basically, it took me 3 months. I put my 2 weeks notice in, and here's Warehouse Buyers Club.
That's a very interesting story.
Yeah, thank
Amazing.
you.
Yeah, I love the entrepreneurial spirit. That's kind of leading into my next question. You kind of answered it a little bit, but even before your job or typical 9 to 5, even maybe say in school, did you kind of always have a passion? You kind of always wanted to start something for yourself? Or was it specifically when you started working for someone else, you're like, I have to start something new?
No, it's interesting. I'd say it's tough. I know I have a sales DNA. So
Mm.
for me, I actually have an accounting degree, which was probably not a very good tracking path for my college degree based off of my persona. But the nice thing is I do have the ability to speak to, financial reporting and the language of business. So again, now fast forwarding to owning my own business, it's very helpful.
Yeah.
But I didn't necessarily know I wanted to own my own business. I just knew I wanted to be really successful by helping people and doing something I loved. And so that was really my main mission. And what I found was it seemed like no matter what, my personality, I just always felt like I had great ideas. And not everybody always agreed with my ideas, but it just felt like I had great ideas. And sometimes people, I could persuade them into, following me and doing it. And other times I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway because I feel really strongly about this. So I think what ended up happening naturally was after a while, I just worked for a lot of other companies and I got to the point realizing like, no matter what I think, if I work for somebody else, like they're going to trump my ability to do what I want to do at some way, shape or form. So I think entrepreneurship just kind of happened through sales success. I'm
Yeah.
a really big believer in relationships. So I was fortunate that through the years, I've just made a lot of really good connections and I've tried to stay extremely humble and loyal to the people that helped get me to where I am. And through that, I think Warehouse Buyers Club was a great fit to start a business.
That's amazing to hear. So, pivoting a little bit, why don't you just take us through a typical day to day? I know it sure probably looks pretty different, but just an average day for you. What does that look like?
Yeah, an average day. So, I'm a husband and a father. So first and foremost, and a father to 2 dogs. So my first part of my day is actually going and walking the dogs and clearing my head. I do a morning prayer just to kind of get my headspace and just kind of clearing that time for myself and just I would say taking some meditative time and really using that to reset whatever happened the day before, just realizing that's like my start point of the day. And I do think it's important to have a schedule, especially as an entrepreneur. It does get really hectic. And so just giving myself that grace to start the day without like jumping in emails or jumping in a bunch of calls or getting like too forward too fast is really important. And I found that's really helped me just day to day. From there, I absolutely still do project management. Even though I'm building a marketplace, I don't want to be presenting myself in something that we're not. We also do on site project management. We're helping people with warehouse solutions to identify opportunities. So sometimes my day is driving to New Jersey or Philadelphia or New York or Maryland based on that opportunity. And other times, again, until I grow my business, sometimes I'm doing invoicing and sometimes I'm doing, follow up outreach. And so what I found is no matter what my day is going to look like, planning and prepping for it's hugely important. And the other thing I try to do is if I'm going to do invoicing, because I don't have somebody right now at Warehouse Buyers Club doing it, I try to plan to do all my own invoicing in one shot. So I try to streamline as much as I can with wherever my mind is and my time is as much as I possibly can.
That's awesome. So, where do you kind of see technology fitting into the tech space? E-commerce, AI, automation. How is that going to make the biggest impact in the warehouse equipment sales in the next few years?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's a big shift into automation, and a lot of that has to do with labor costs. And a lot of the companies that are just the 100-pound gorillas in our industry, the Amazons of the world, they run 24/7, 365. They're putting in massive facilities already and continue to build all throughout the country. So that's a big strain on just if you go to populations that aren't New York City, right? Like you're going into the Midwest, where some of these towns, just population wise, aren't what they are in some high metro areas, especially in the Northeast.
Yeah.
You really do need automation to supplement just the things and how they get done. So that's going to continue to expand. But on the flip side of that, I think you're also seeing the smaller and medium sized customers, which a lot of times are more of our niche customer, also have a need. They're basically even having to decide, do I sell out my business or I grow my business? And to compete with these big behemoths, they need to also invest into these technologies to compete. And so I think it starts at the top, but it quickly gets passed along through a lot of the size businesses.
100%. So, where do you want Warehouse Buyers Club to be in the next 6 to 12 months, or what's kind of some goals you guys have?
Yeah. So, I think one of the things that I've had to decide is what do I want my business to be? And since it starts with me and I'm growing the team now, is culturally, it's always about, doing the right thing for the customer and making sure that the solutions we provide are the best possible solutions we can for our customers. So I don't want that to change no matter how big or how small the projects are. I also don't want to look at a customer and think, hey, just because we start to do larger projects, we're going to forget some of the companies that help get us to the point of having those capabilities or having those successes to be able to start looking at larger projects.
Yeah.
But culturally, I think it's just important to have our identity with the people that I hire and making sure that they are a good fit for the type of business I want to be. And so it starts with the people and just making sure it's somebody I'd want to have a conversation with and somebody that I believe could really help somebody that's looking for it. So that would be my next 6 to 12 months, is growing the team and making sure culturally we stay where I want it to be based on why I started the business. And also, same thing, I want people to be passionate about Warehouse Buyers Club because I am. So I want to make sure that when somebody comes and decides to either leave what they're doing or maybe make the next career move, they're excited about it. And that excitement's going to come through to help our customers.
100%. So, with the goals that you're kind of mentioning, I always like asking everyone this. If you could have a magic wand that just fixes one thing that is stopping you from reaching your goal, what would that be?
It's a good question, because if anybody had a better answer than me, let me know so that I can use it and get the magical wand. I think for me right now, it's probably saying no more to be really like the best at everything we decide to do. As a startup business, I get messages all the time about, hey, do you have freedom in your ability to like work with us and do this? And I would just say trying to block out all the things that we're just not ready for yet and dilute the opportunities that are really going to make us the best at what we do for the foreseeable future. Because right now, again, as a solopreneur, I only have so much time in a day. And the fact is, like, I can't do everything. I can't be great at everything. So really focusing on what we can be great at, and anything we can't be, either deciding not to do it or focusing on how we get there.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. So, kind of just wrapping up today, saying if who's listening kind of want to breaks into the industry, they have the entrepreneurial spirit that you talked about. Kind of what's some words of wisdom you'd give them?
Yeah, I would say maybe it's because I'm older, but one of the things that I've done is really slow down and think through. And I'm a risk taker, so I don't want to come across like I'm not a risk taker because I am, but I read a lot more than I used to and I reflect a lot more than I used to. So if you are starting a business, and I'll give you an example, there's so many people that say, I want to start a restaurant, right? And they have absolutely no industry experience or the cost involved to start a restaurant or really anything related to that. They just look at it as like, I want to work for myself and they start a restaurant or think about starting a restaurant. Before I started Warehouse Buyers Club, I was very adamant in knowing that I wasn't going to be a plumber, meaning I didn't want my business to grow by only the amount of time I could bill somebody. I wanted to build a business that at some way, shape, or form could scale where it wasn't just me and the hours I put in equals the dollar I could charge and the output coming out. And so if you are starting your business, think about that. Like how future can you look at scaling a business? And then at the same time, what expenses are there going to be? Part of why I was so excited about Warehouse Buyers Club to start was as a broker, we don't own anything, right? Like just like your real estate broker doesn't actually own the home that they're trying to list just somebody to buy. So for a material handling brokerage, I'm solely focused on getting the right solution for the client, but I'm also not stressed out about the costs behind the scenes of like personnel and overhead and all the things that can maybe make your business fail before it even gets started. So I would just say, really take patience, think through like how this business is going to run with just you doing it
Mm.
versus scalability and all the costs associated up front. And maybe there's a way you can do it today that may change in the future. And I will tell you too, the other thing I told myself now is stop saying what we don't do because that was Jeff 2 years ago, right? That
Yep.
was all I knew 2 years ago to be like, oh no, we don't do that. But quickly I found that if there's a customer that has a need and I believe that we can help solve that need, the answer is going to be yes, right? It may be no next week, but it might not be no in a couple weeks from then. So never say we will never do it.
Yeah, that's an amazing answer. I think that's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I think the conversation was amazing, and hopefully the audience members enjoyed.
All right, Megan. Hey, I appreciate you having me and good luck with your business.